Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good evening and namaste everybody. Revered Swami Samachittanandaji Maharaj, the esteemed organizers from the Hindu Endowments Board, the Hindu Advisory Board, Gita Jayanti, and all the distinguished guests here. It's a great pleasure to be back here for the fourth and final talk in this series. So there's nothing final about study of the Gita. Never say for Gita and the text like this that I have read it. That shows shallowness. I am reading it. I am reading the Gita. I remember Mandukya Upanishad was being taught in a traditional ashram in the Himalayas. One monk was teaching, very great sadhu who has passed away now. He was teaching, starting Mandukya Upanishad with Bhashya and Karika and Bhashya. So in the first class, somebody asked, "Kitne din lagenge? How long will it take? How long will it take to be concluded? Samapt hoga. How long will it take to conclude?" And Swami, very affectionately, he said that concluding it is not the goal. In Hindi, he said, "Jab tak swas chalegi, mandukya chalegi." As long as you're breathing, mandukya will continue. Finishing it is not the goal. He is very gentle. So all Swamis are not so gentle. Another Swami, starting Sanskrit grammar class, admitted it's a little boring for most of us. For Pandits, it's very exciting to Sanskrit grammar. He's starting Sanskrit grammar class. So first class, very naturally, some student asked in the class, actually real story, "How long will it take to finish this book?" And that Swami I still remember, it's so funny. He said, "Aap to abhi nikal jao. You leave now." You leave now. So there's no end to it. But we go on studying. When you finish chanting Bhagavad Gita, you go back and chant the first shloka all over again. So that it's a cycle. Keep your mind there. So this time I selected Kshetra Kshetragya Vibhaga Yoga, the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and the most important, the initial verses of the 13th chapter. And you saw those who were there day before yesterday, what a kind of a miracle where somebody handed me this book, Ramana Maharshi's selections of Bhagavad Gita shlokas. 42 shlokas, just 42 shlokas. And the first is Sanjaya said that to whom Krishna spoke to Arjuna. The first verse selected as a Krishna's teaching, the first verse was Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetramityabhidiyate. According to Bhagavan Sri Ramana, according to Ramana Maharshi, most important. First selection, he starts there. Second verse, Kshetragyang chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Know me alone to be this one consciousness in all body mind. So these two verses, we selected it. I liked it for my own purposes, I selected it, but you see the importance of it. Now, what is the purpose? We are Kshetragya, we are consciousness. What is the purpose of this body-mind? And by extension, the entire universe. Many answers are possible. When you get into Vedanta, this question will come again and again. After some time, when you think about it, question will come, oh, the whole thing is a projection of one Brahman appearing in all these ways. Why is Brahman appearing in all these ways? And there are multiple answers possible. Some of them very sophisticated philosophically. Some of them may not be philosophically so satisfying, but more psychologically satisfying, and so on. one of the standard answers across Indian philosophy, across Vedantic schools, is that this whole thing, this whole game is meant for our spiritual evolution, for our spiritual growth. That's one answer. How will we get spiritual growth? This kshetra, this body-mind which we have now, and we had others like this in the past, and we will have others in the future as long as we need to. This entire game of life and death. It is meant for our spiritual evolution, and it goes through two phases. Two phases. Bhoga and yoga. There is an ancient word for this, bhoga apavarga. It means, bhoga means experience. It means experience of pleasure and pain. Often in English we translate bhoga as enjoyment, but it's not always enjoyment. In fact, mostly it isn't enjoyment. It's a lot of pain and suffering. So bhoga literally means experience. Experience of pleasure and pain through this kshetra, identified with this body. Here is this amazing universe before me. I try to reach fulfillment. And I pursue pleasure, I pursue happiness, and I try to avoid pain, I try to avoid dissatisfaction, dukkha. I try to avoid it and attain sukha. And this is what we are trying to do lifetime after lifetime. And at one point we realize it isn't working. Then we look for a more enlightened way to achieve the same thing. How to achieve deep, lasting fulfillment and overcome suffering, transcend suffering. And we come upon spirituality. I'm using it in the broadest sense. This is the argument for all religions. They put it in different languages, and all spiritual philosophies. They put it in different language, different metaphors. But how can we attain fulfillment? How can we overcome suffering in this life? Then starts the path of yoga, apavarga, moksha. Now, how to do bhoga in this world? No need to teach us. Enough. We learn. We know how to enjoy in this world, and then how to enjoy in a sustainable way, how to enjoy in a wise way. School is teaching us, parents teach us, society teaches us. Education, holding a job, building up an organization, nurturing a family, all these are sustainable, wiser ways of enjoying in this world. There are otherwise ways also of enjoying, or not enjoying, but suffering, trying to enjoy and suffering in this world. So this is one side of it. In the same way, the path of yoga, it needs to be taught. The path of spirituality needs to be learned. And Shankaracharya in his masterpiece, the Adhyasa Bhashya, the introduction to the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, there he says, Naisargiko ayam loka vyavahara. This instinctive life which we have got is natural. We are born with it. We don't need to go to school to learn I am body-mind. We are born with this. Lifetime after lifetime we have been cultivating it. But to arise from this, to know what we truly are, that we are kshetragya, we are the consciousness, we are aware, we are the awareness, the consciousness, the chaitanyam, experiencing body, mind, and experiencing a world, that consciousness, we need to be taught. It has to be pointed out. Now, from the Advaitic perspective, the problem, the difficulty, special difficulty lies here in spiritual life, is that this world and the kshetra, the field, body, mind, they all belong to one category, Atma, Anatma, object. You can see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. You can think about it, you can speak about it, you can do experiments with it. You can have science and religion and art all about it. But the kshetragya, the Atman, the witness consciousness, that does not belong to this category. And in order to know or realize who or what we are, the senses are not enough. Even ordinary language is not enough. Science is not enough. A special spiritual practice is necessary in order to prepare the kshetra so that the kshetragya might know itself as the kshetragya. In order to prepare the field, in order that I, the knower of the field, I can appreciate myself, know myself as I truly am, and thereby set myself free. So sadhana is required for this higher purpose of life, this God realization, enlightenment. Two purposes, bhoga and apavarga. Bhoga we have tried and we have found it dissatisfactory, not fulfilling. Now we want to try this other thing, which the religions of the world, spirituality has been promising. You walk down this path, you will realize, you will find what you are seeking for. Finally, really finally you will find it. Proof. Proof is very easy. Look at the lives of those who you consider to be enlightened, spiritual. They also went through a lot of suffering, sometimes more suffering than us. But notice one thing, somehow they were deeply fulfilled people. All of them. All the enlightened ones, all the highly saintly spiritual people, they were deeply fulfilled. That fulfillment we are looking for. So for that, sadhana is necessary. And I spoke about the structure of spiritual practice, sadhana, which will enable the kshetragya, the witness consciousness, to see itself, realize itself, and thereby set itself free from its limitations. Yesterday I spoke about the structure of sadhana. There is karma yoga, there is bhakti yoga, there is raja yoga or dhyana yoga, and from an Advaitic perspective, at the peak of the pyramid, there is jnana yoga. Why privilege jnana yoga over everything else? Because the way, Vedanta sees the problem, Advaita Vedanta sees the problem. The problem is one of ignorance. It's already all right, but we don't know that it is all right. We need to know that it is all right. We need to know that we are Satchidananda. And to see that, not just read about it, to see that as a fact. So therefore, ignorance is the problem, knowledge has to be the solution. If knowledge has to be the solution, then Jnana Yoga, path of this spiritual, philosophical inquiry into who I am, that must be the way. Of course, the question might be that, what about the other paths? There are bhakti schools, those who talk about bhakti as the way to freedom. So they see the problem in a different way. Paradigm, the spiritual paradigm is different. In the bhakti approach, the paradigm is God exists and God can take care of you and solve all your problems. The problem is that you don't have faith in God, you don't surrender to God, you don't love God. So the solution will be bhakti. There is the yogic paradigm. They say that you are the Atman, but you don't see it because of the restlessness of your mind. So restlessness of the mind, chitta vikshepa, is the problem. Calm the mind down in samadhi, you will realize the truth. Different paradigms, different solutions. But here we are talking about the Advaitic paradigm. That's what we are talking about. Now, Sri Krishna comes down to, there's a phrase in English, I know where the shoe pinches. From the highest truth, you are pure consciousness. And that pure consciousness is not many. It is one pure consciousness shining through all bodies and minds. Sri Krishna says that, Kshetragyang chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. In all bodies and minds, there is one awareness. So at that level, we are all one reality actually. This is the Advaitic teaching. And the entire world of difference, bodies, minds, and universe, is an appearance of that one reality. But that's very high philosophy. Very high philosophy. One sadhu said, बहुत बड़ी-बड़ी बातें करते हैं आप, कभी छोटी बातों पर भी ध्यान दिया कीजिए. Let us now look at the little details. Little details means, Swami Vivekananda said, take care of the means, the end will take care of itself. Pay attention to the means, and then you will see the result. So what are the means? Sri Krishna then, in the 13th chapter, he gives us 20 practices. They seem like qualities. They're not qualities. The moment you say humility, then uprightness, simplicity, so these are qualities, I don't have them. No, they are practices. Practices are things that we can all do. So all he's asking us is, be up and doing, improve this. Suppose you have it, congratulations. You don't have these things in your life, get them in your life. It is entirely possible to get these things in your life. So he will give us 20 things to do. We have been asking, I understand all that, now what do I do? Well, Krishna is telling you now, going to tell you, what do you do? And these 20 are so important. He says, these 20 are jnana. You want jnana, you want knowledge, you want to become enlightened? Yes, I will give you jnana. All right, tell me. Then he gives us these 20 practices. And he says, these 20 are jnana. And Shankaracharya explains that by these you attain jnana and not without these. And therefore they are synonymous with jnana. See, these 20, I mentioned something called the ethical manifestation paradigm of enlightenment. In an earlier talk, I said enlightenment, God realization, you can see it in two ways. One is called the paradigm shift. I thought I was body-mind. Now I realize I'm pure consciousness. I thought I was kshetra, field. Now I realize I'm kshetrajya. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. I thought I was this fellow called Sarvapriyananda. Now I see Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. I thought I was this human being. I have now realized my Buddha nature. So this is the paradigm shift, huge shift in what we see about ourselves and everything else also. This is one side of enlightenment. But there is another side of enlightenment, equally important. If I am enlightened, then the qualities of an enlightened person, the behavior of an enlightened person must manifest in my life. The love, the fearlessness, the serenity, the compassion, all those things must come. I can't be the same grumbling, irritable, grasping, petty fellow I was earlier, and after enlightenment I continue to be like that. That enlightenment is not very inspiring at all. So ethical manifestation is another side of enlightenment. So these are two paradigms of enlightenment. The paradigm shift and there are not two paradigms, two sides, two aspects, same enlightenment, and the ethical manifestation. Now what ethical manifestation? These 20, they are not only practices, but they are also the qualities you will see in an enlightened person, manifesting naturally. I mentioned this in the first talk when Krishna is asked this question by Arjuna, what is it like to be enlightened? And then Krishna gives the whole Sthita Prajna, few verses on the one whose enlightenment is stabilized, the one of stabilized wisdom. And then he gives several descriptions. Before that, Shankaracharya in his commentary, when the Bhashya says, Sarvatra eva hi adhyatma shastre, kritarthasya lakshanani, yani eva kritarthasya lakshanani, tani eva sadhanani upadishyante. In all spiritual texts, when you discuss the qualities of an enlightened person, the qualities of a saint, qualities of a Jivan Mukta, those become the practices for the rest of us. So these are actually found in the lives of spiritually advanced people, enlightened people, and these are also practices to attain that state. So have to be taken seriously. Why seriously? The moment you say, be humble, be truthful, be upright, you immediately say, oh, why I had come to hear about Atman, Brahman, consciousness, Samadhi. What is this, be a good boy or good girl? This is too simple. I love this story. Somebody went to learn meditation and went to a meditation teacher, yoga teacher, and said, Dhyan sikhaiye Mahatma ji, please teach me meditation. And the yoga teacher said, all right, yama, niyama, before, first tell the truth, be self-controlled, be non-violent, all those yamas and niyamas he started teaching them. This man said, hey, wait. All these things I learned in kindergarten. Be a good boy, I've learned that. Please teach me asana, pranayama, pratyahara, withdrawing, dhyana. So, हमको ध्यान सिखाइए, आसन सिखाइए. Then the sadhu said, and this works, it's a beautiful thing, but it works only in Hindi. I'll tell you in Hindi and translate. That yoga teacher, he said, आप अष्टांग योग सीखेंगे या विकलांग योग सीखेंगे? Are you going to learn a 8-limbed yoga, the 8 limbs of Patanjali yoga, yama, niyama, the asana, pranayama, then pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So 8 limbs of yoga. Are you going to learn 8-limbed yoga, or Vikalang would be 1 or 2 limbs are missing, handicapped yoga? Not a politically correct thing to say. So if you cut out the first 2 limbs, moral and ethical practices, yama, niyama, and you say, teach me asana, how to sit. And that teacher is saying, black money par asan bichhaoge, dhyan hoga. I have undeclared income, and then put my asana on that and sit in meditation. Can you meditate? No, it's not that easy. So these practices are essential. They are the unglamorous hard work of spiritual life. Swami Ashokanandaji, who was in our Vedanta Society of Northern California, so he would tell people to do selfless service, work, do good to others, work in the ashram. He was a great advocate of hard work. And then somebody complained. So he wrote that, you think that Swami doesn't consider me fit for meditation. That's why he is telling me to do karma yoga. Well, I will show him. And Ashokanji writes, you will show me, but not in the way you think. So karma yoga, this selfless work, ethical practices are foundational, very important. So we'll go into that now. 20 things to do. Let me just chant those 20 and then we'll take it up. Amanitvam madambhitvam ahimsa kshantirajyavam acharya upasanam shaucham sthairyam atma vinigraha. Absence of pride, freedom from hypocrisy, non-violence, forgiveness or for uprightness, respect to the service to the acharya or the guru, purity, steadiness, control of the senses, of body, mind and senses. Indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam. Dispassion towards the objects of enjoyment of this world and the next, absence of egotism, contemplating the pain and suffering of birth, death, old age and disease. Asaktiranabhishwanga putradaragrihadishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu. Absence of attachment and a feeling of mindness in respect to children and spouse and home, etc., and constant equipoise of mind both in a favorable and unfavorable circumstances. Mai cha ananya yogena bhaktirabhyabhicharini vivikta desha sevitvam aratirjana samsadi. Unflinching devotion to God, then living in secluded and holy places and finding no enjoyment in crowds. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam etaj jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yadatunyatha. Steadiness, being fixed in the pursuit of Vedanta, the path of knowledge. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam. And seeing God as the tattva, the reality all the time. Seeing the ultimate truth as the reality. All this is declared as knowledge, and what is other than this is called ignorance. 20. How are there 20? That's I can give it to you as homework. Go and count, there will be 20. And these 20 are knowledge. He doesn't even say these are means to knowledge. He says these are so important, you can consider them to be knowledge itself. And he also mentions the opposite of each of them. That's also homework. Find out these 20, write them down, see what are the opposites. So, amanitvam is humility, and the opposite would be arrogance. So, like that. 20. There are things to be done, practiced, and there are things to be carefully avoided or overcome. That is said to be ignorance. Vedanta, we define ignorance in a very philosophical way. Not knowing that I am Brahman, that's ignorance. But then what are the manifestations of not knowing that I am Brahman? These are the manifestations. You tackle them where do you find them. So, let's get into it. Amanitvam madambhitvam ahimsa kshanti rajyavam acharyopasanam shaucham stairyam atma vinigraham. The first one, amanitva, is humility. Mani means a person who feels himself to be glorified. I am rich, or I am very learned. I've got so many degrees, or I'm so learned, or I am beautiful or handsome, or I'm very strong, I'm very powerful, I'm very famous. I have lots of Facebook friends and likes. I get lots of likes on my social media posts. So, or any one of these. Yes, it's a huge thing. I read somewhere, terrible things happen. A student in India, in some engineering college, committed suicide because the number of followers on some social media platform declined. Not enough people were following him. So I consider these as my glory. If I have money, if people like me, whether they like me or not, I don't know, but at least Facebook likes are there. And then if I have degrees, if I have power, then I am good, I am doing well in life. If I don't have these, somehow I feel a huge lack in life. This considering oneself to be glorified by these is called manitvam. This arrogance which comes out of it, manitvam. Now, one has to be careful here. When Sri Krishna says you have to overcome this, you have to step away from this. Why and what is its connection with Advaitic knowledge? We'll see a little later. But first, a note of caution. One gentleman, he said to, I can tell the name. Some of you have heard of Rajiv Malhotra? Yeah. So he was there in one of my talks. So he said, I'm glad to see that you are careful when you teach these things. That straight away the teaching of amanitvam, for example, for a person who is not yet confident, but a person is already shaky, a person who does not have a well-formed personality yet, for a person who is not yet aiming to be a yogi or an enlightened person, it can be damaging. So first, the warning here, the caution here is confidence, self-confidence, self-esteem, a well-formed personality is absolutely a must. Swami Vivekananda goes so far as to say, the old religion said, he who does not believe in God is an atheist. The new religion says, he who does not believe in himself is an atheist. Nastika, there are many meanings. A traditional meaning is those who do not accept the Vedas as pramana. This is a technical meaning. But the general meaning of Nastika in Hinduism is somebody who does not believe in God or religion. But here, someone who does not have faith in oneself. So faith in oneself, absolutely necessary. Sri Ramakrishna defined human beings. He was wonderful at punning on words. So defined a human being in Bengali, manush. It's manush in Bengali. And he would split it up, man-hush. He split it up into man-hush. Man means a sense of dignity. Dignity. Same thing, manitvam, man. And hush means an awareness of your dignity as a human being. So that is the beginning of spirituality. So what Krishna is saying here is several steps ahead. So we must start there. Self-confidence, self-esteem. Unless I think well of myself, I will never take up any kind of project like spiritual enlightenment, which I will just sabotage myself. I'll never think I'll be able to do that. So self-confidence. There was this psychologist in America, Albert Bandura, a few decades back. He coined a term, self-efficacy. Self-efficacy. What does it mean? He coined it for students. He noted that some students, when they're facing a difficult examination paper, some, when they find it difficult, they just go ahead to the next question. Or they give up immediately. It's too tough. I know I can't do it. Some stick with it. And maybe they will solve the questions. See, unless you try, you will never solve it. Guaranteed 100% failure. If you try, there is some chance of solving it. So who are the students who stuck with it? Who are the students who gave up? And he saw those who had this innate, this sense of self-efficacy. What is self-efficacy? Beautiful definition. He said, self-efficacy is the sense that I can tackle most challenges in life. I can tackle most challenges in life. I have faced problems in the past, and by facing problems, struggling with it, overcoming it, a confidence comes. Those who have never faced problems, or those, somebody said, I pity the children of rich parents. Because out of love and affection, parents make things easy for the children. But that leads to, that sense of self-efficacy is not generated. That struggle is necessary. There's this story, I don't know if it's true or false, a pupa, caterpillar, becoming a butterfly. So it struggles and struggles in the last moments of bursting out of the pupa and then spreading its glorious wings and flying away. Now some scientists thought I should help the poor fellow. So he cut the last strings of the pupa so that he'll be free. Then he couldn't fly. Then they realized that that few hours of struggle is actually necessary for gaining full strength of the wings to fly. So, self-efficacy, the ability, the feeling, I can face challenges and overcome them. That when challenges come, I will not give up immediately. Holding on. So this is the warning. Amanitvam does not mean being, lacking confidence, being a doormat. Swami Vivekananda's definition of humility is very beautiful. Swami Vivekananda's definition of humility. He says, humility does not consist in being a doormat. Humility means seeing the greatness in the other person. True humility means seeing the greatness in the other person. One of Swami Vivekananda's, I won't say disciples, Josephine MacLeod, because she never said, I'm a disciple of Vivekananda, the American lady. She said, I'm his friend. She writes, she was very well connected in American and European society in those days. So she says that when I met the Tsar of Russia, I felt how great he is and how insignificant I am. When I met Swami Vivekananda, I felt how great he is and how great I am. See, this is something that Vivekananda could arouse in people around. A sense of their own glory, greatness, limitlessness. Somebody wrote about Vivekananda, the sheer size of the man, not physically, a kind of vastness of presence. Something that it was in his expression, in his eyes, and he could transmit it to others. Something that would go on working in the lives of others even long after Vivekananda was gone. So this is the real nature of amanitvam. It is meant for confident people. First develop a sense of personality, integrated personality, confidence, then. Now what is wrong? Let us go deeper into this. What is wrong in being proud of wealth and I'm well born. I'm translating from the Gita now. I am well born. I am successful. I am strong. I am rich. These things I have achieved today. Those things I will achieve tomorrow. See, that's great. What's wrong with this? Krishna says these are the characteristics of demons. Yeah. From an Advaitic perspective, let us consider this little deeply. The Sanskrit word mana means measure. Mana means to measure. What can be measured? Only the limited can be measured. Whatever is limited, body, age, weight, degrees, wealth, Facebook likes, these are all limited things. They can be measured, they can be counted. And those who identify themselves with this measurable, limited thing, the term for them is mani. Mani. Nothing wrong as such. But what happens is, when you are seeking liberation, enlightenment, freedom, when we are seeking our own infinite nature, to hold on to the limited is to limit oneself. What is my glory? Is it my glory that I have a few dollars in the bank. I have an old and moth-eaten certificate from a college. I have some uncertain number of friends on Facebook. Is that my glory? Or is my glory that I am Satchidananda, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham? What is my glory? Is it my glory that I have got a group of people who continuously praise me? Or is it my glory that I am the child of God? The Lord is my father. The Lord is my mother. So what is my glory? Manitvam means to hold on to the limited, to hold on to kshetra. What is limited? What is measurable? Kshetra. Body, mind, and everything associated with body, mind. If the kshetra, you the consciousness, if I the consciousness, forgetting my own glory, I keep on holding on to the glory of this body, then this is the problem. I will never be able to appreciate my limitless free nature. That's why this is the connection with Advaita Vedanta. This is the connection with Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Amanitvam. Step back from these things. If these things are there, if you are rich, if you are learned, if people like you, you are young and beautiful, handsome and strong, congratulations, good. Where do these things come from? They all come from, in our way of thinking, they come from punya. Congratulations, you are a punyatma. They come from past good karma. You are a punyatma. The downside of it is you are using up your punya. You are using up your past credit. So get all these nice things in life. By the way, Vedanta is the greatest use of punya. They say, the belief is that if you have a lot of good karma, good merit, you have a pleasant life. Things go your way. Everything, family, job, everything goes, health, everything goes well, generally. If you have a lot, even much more, lots and lots of good karma, then you come to Vedanta. Then you become interested in spiritual life. No, it's a belief. So, because of this punya, we have got certain things which we are proud of. I don't have those things. The downside of it is I am frustrated. I want those things in my life. Neither of them are free. Both of them are identified. There's a sense of mahatva, glory is there. Nothing wrong with money, nothing wrong with cars and with degrees and with all of them are nice. Don't be identified with it. They will come and go. They will come and go. That is not our glory. I've seen the greater the person. I always say 3 interesting places I saw in the last few years. I was in Hollywood, the place of glamour. Their success is glamour. In Manhattan, next to Wall Street, their success is money, not glamour. How much do you have? In Hollywood, they'll say, this is star's house. This is some film star. I keep forgetting the names. Billie Eilish or something is there. She lives next door. This person lives there. That person comes to our ashram. They are all film stars associated with the film industry. And then in Manhattan, nobody asks about that. They will say, this is a billionaire's row. All billionaires live here. That means glory is there. Mahatva is money. In Boston and Harvard University, Mahatva is learning, degrees, Nobel Prize winner. My professor is a Nobel Prize winner. So this is mani, holding on to this. And it's not that I have seen sometimes some of the greatest people there in these areas, whether it's film industry or in the finance sector or in academia, they are among the most humble. They are not particularly attached to their status. Everybody is amazed at their fame, but no, they don't think it's all that great. Sometimes they are the most simple and unprepossessing. They seem not at all very impressive on a first glance. Yeah. So amanitvam. There is a deep connection with attaching oneself to the limited, and then you to see that I am the unlimited, the infinite. It is very difficult. I had this conversation. This is a slightly different topic. In science, the sign of reality is measurability. If it's real, it should be measurable. That's in science. So I had this conversation with a mathematician. He is Du Satoy. He is a professor of pure mathematics at Oxford University. Measurability is reality in science. So is your consciousness, Brahman, measurable? And there is even, America is a place for all these crazy quote-unquote people, you know. So there is a whole school measuring consciousness. How much consciousness is there? They'll have 10, 100, 1,000 like that. In Advaita Vedanta, this is disaster. Because what you are measuring cannot be consciousness. One of the names of consciousness or Chaitanya or Brahman is Ameya, that which cannot be measured. One of our monks is also called Ameyananda. So immeasurable, it cannot be measured. The objective alone can be measured. The kshetra alone can be measured. The kshetragya cannot be measured. So I had this conversation with him, this mathematician, and when I told him, according to Advaita Vedanta, it's exactly the opposite. Reality is that which cannot be measured. If you measure it, it's Maya. Maya is measurable. That which comes under Maya is measurable. But Brahman is not measurable. And you are that immeasurable Brahman. Then you, the immeasurable Brahman, should not attach yourself, should not hold on to the limited measurable entities in the world. So this is the deep philosophical meaning of amanitvam. See how it connects with Advaitic realization. The next one, adambhitvam. This is a funny one. Dambha means, it's often translated in English as, here it is, hypocrisy. Adambhitva means freedom from hypocrisy. Literally what it means is, mana and dambha. Mana is the attachment, self-glorification based on actual qualities which I have. The amount of money in my bank, so I am a multimillionaire. But dambha is glorifying oneself based on qualities I don't have. So I have got something, I exaggerate that. We love to do it. You really have some qualities, and because I love it, I want to have more of it. I start projecting that I have more of this. I love learning. I love being esteemed as a learned person. I want to show off that I know much more than I do. I love to be known as a rich person. Then I want to show off. Actually, I have much more money than I actually do. So it's very popular. I don't know about here, especially in the big cities in the United States. You never know how rich a person is. So it's all on credit. You see all fancy goods and an apartment and house. Oh, very rich. 2 days later, homeless. Because possessed by the bank. The bank has come and taken over the apartment or taken away the car or something. So it is a glory based on something I really don't have. Somebody recently told me there's a new company which is doing very well. What they do is they prepare executive summaries of books. So the selling line is, it's doing very well. It's a good thing, in many ways good. But the thing is, the selling line is, then you can pretend to be well-read. You don't need to read the books. Just read one page, you know that. Now, why would one want to do that? Dambha. Dambha. I am one thing, I would like to be another thing. Being that thing, I am not so learned. I would like to be known as a person who has read all those books. And I have not read all those books. I know I cannot read all those books. Now, somehow can I appear to have read all those books? And I would love to do that, because reading those books is not my goal. To be known as a person who has read all those books is my goal. The classic example of a so-called scholar who had so many books and I have read all of that, and then somebody found many of the pages had not been cut. In the old days, the books pages used to sometimes. So mana and dambha. I am reminded of a very touching story. Revered Swami Bhuteshanandji Maharaj, who was the 12th president of our order. He was also a great scholar. In his youth, before he became a monk, he was a student of philosophy, and his professor was a world-renowned professor of philosophy, S.N. Dasgupta. Nowadays people don't recognize that name, but 5 volumes, History of Indian Philosophy. and he was the King George V scholar, professor of moral sciences in Calcutta University in those days, pre-independence of India. So he was a great scholar, but Mana and Dambha, the Swami told us a story. With sorrow, he told us that one day we as youngsters went to this very eminent scholar's house, our professor's house. Books were all over, in the shelves, on the table, on the chairs, on the floor also, so many books. And this professor in those days, very British, in three-piece suit and boot and all, he came and he sat there. There were these texts, it's difficult to say it also, Vedic texts on the floor. He put his booted foot on the book and he said, all these books, I have read all of them. And the Swami said, as students, we are standing in the corner and thinking, this is the result of having read. But that is also, I will give credit to that professor. He has really read all of them. Manitvam, it's his glory. But there are those who, without having read the books, without having that money, without having those degrees, in India in those days, pre-independence days, to have a BA or BSc degree was a very great thing. Nowadays, not so important. And one gentleman, I heard this story, he would write proudly, Mr. So-and-so, BA, within brackets, failed. Failed. This is Dambha. So, hypocrisy. Why hypocrisy? Because even if I know the qualities I don't have, but I want the respect from others. See, underneath all this is a very Vedantic theme. I know somehow, I sense my own glory, but the glory belongs to the Kshetrajna. I'm trying to discover it in the Kshetra, in the field, in the object. All right, deeper Vedantic analysis of this. What's wrong with all this? As such, in the world, it's not good to be a hypocrite. It's an awful thing. But Vedantically, from philosophically, what's wrong? It runs very, very deep. The problem runs very deep. What is Maya? What is Adhyasa, in the technical term in Vedanta? You will be stunned to see the definition of Adhyasa and the definition of hypocrisy are one and the same. Atasmin tad buddhi. Those who have done Vedanta, they know. To see something where there is no, such thing is not there. To project something what is not there. Infinite existence, consciousness, bliss is projected as a material, limited material universe. What is not there appears. That is exactly the definition of hypocrisy at our level. What I am not, I project myself as that. That tendency is exactly the opposite of the non-dualistic Vedantic ideal. So, adambhitvam has a deep connection. Do you see those who have studied superimposition, Maya, do you see the definition of Adhyasa, superimposition? I am body-mind. What is the body-mind? I. What are you? Body-mind. This mutual superimposition. What is not there, I project it and identify myself with it. What is veiled, hidden. In our day-to-day language, what do we call it? We call it hypocrisy. So, adambhitvam, Sri Krishna says, reverse this, step back from this. Ahimsa, non-violence, very, very important. Vyasa, he says, after all of teaching about the Puranas and Mahabharata and everything, I am telling you, the essence of dharma is not to hurt others. Ahimsa, in thought, word and deed. In fact, how deep it goes, there was one sadhu, Ram Sukdas ji. He wrote a beautiful commentary on Bhagavad Gita in Hindi. He was in Swargashram in Rishikesh. Have some of you seen him? Anybody? Some have seen. I was restless and foolish, I missed seeing him. As a young Swami wandering around in the Himalayas at that time in 2004, looking for Advaitic Swamis. And somebody said, that ashram, go there, there's a very old Swami, he is there, his name is Ram Sukdas ji, go and meet him, it will be good. I was going to some other Swami at that time. I said, later, I'll come back later. 2-3 years later, I came back. It was a foolish thing because at that time, the Swami was 100 years old. So you can't say later for a Swami who was 100 years old. 2-3 years I came back. Unfortunately, the Swami had passed away. So this Ram Sukdas ji in his analysis, he talks about the 81 types of non-violence. 80. Don't worry, I'm not going to list it out now. But first of all, violence, himsa, it can be done physically, it can be done in language, verbally, it can be done mentally also. So, kaya, mana, vakya, physical, mental, verbal and mental violence. That's three kinds of violence. Now, each of these, it can be, he says, it can be of different degrees. Degrees, he says, mridu, madhya, ati. Mridu means mild violence. And then madhya means medium intensity. Ati means a lot of violence, explicit, overt violence. So if you're 3 into 3, 9 types now already. And then he says that the causes of these, this kind of violence, krodha, lobha, moha. So violence comes from anger, straight away. But violence also comes from greed. I want it, I can't prevent myself, I'll deprive others of it. And moha, delusion. I am a Democrat, I am Republican, I am supporter of this team, that team. It's a delusion. There's no need to be violent about it. But people engage in violence. So this is 3 more types. How much is it? 9 into 3, 27. And then there was one more set. So body, speech, mind. Then anger, greed, delusion. Then the degree. Oh, how is it done? Kritakarita anumodita. You do violence yourself. You make others do violence. Or you allow violence to happen. So now you have how many types of violence? 81? Then his point is not to make a classification of violence. His point is very interesting. Non-violence is of one type only. Himsa 81 types, non-violence is of one type only. Here's a very interesting insight. All the vices, all the problems, all the adharmic varieties of adharma, there are many, many varieties. The virtue is one. Falsehood, how many types? As many types as possible. Truth, one. Violence, you just heard 81 types. Non-violence, one. Restlessness of mind, how many types? As many objects which come to the mind, but peace of mind, one. One philosopher put it very beautifully. There are many ways of falling down. There's only one way of standing straight. You can fall down in many ways. There's only one way of standing straight. So virtue is one. It points to one reality. Vices are many. When you go into, through ignorance, through maya, it spreads out into many forms. Ahimsa. Shanti. So ahimsa is non-violence. Even when there is occasion for violence, you restrain yourself. You do not engage in violence from your own side. And the 81 types of violence you avoid, ahimsa. Shanti goes further. Forbearance and forgiveness. Already harm has been caused to you. Already harm has been caused to us. And our reaction is to hit back. Our reaction is to hit back. What religion does, all religions, this tendency to hit back, this tendency to take revenge, it controls it. This idea of a Lakshman Rekha, a boundary, thus far and no further. Even the old biblical adage of an eye for an eye, and tooth for a tooth is there, it seems like revenge. But no, it's limitation of revenge. At the very least, minimum you should do this, don't do more harm than has been done to you. But spiritual persons, as spiritual seekers, we have to go further. He has slapped me, I'll slap him back. I'm not slapping him twice, only once, Swamiji. That tendency has to be held back. Kshanti. Why? See, from an Advaitic perspective, why it is so important. It's because of this. I remember one of our ashrams in India, I saw this interesting sight. A very colorful little bird. I think it was a kingfisher or something, or woodpecker or something like that. Colorful little bird. It was making such a racket. I saw what it was doing is, there was a big glass window. It was flying and attacking its own reflection with ferocity, going and bumping against it and hurting itself, bouncing off, coming and seeing that bird in the reflection and charging against it. Why? Because it's attacking me. Don't you see, Swami, it's attacking me? It is you. There is no second bird out there. And Advaita is telling us that no matter how difficult, if I say, Kshetragyam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata, no, you alone are this consciousness in all beings. Why will you fight against yourself? If one hand hurts the other, will you punch this hand? No. If the teeth bite the tongue, will you knock out the teeth? No. Because the teeth and the tongue are actually one. You are the organic unity behind them. Similarly, we have to, in practice, day-to-day practice, it's easy to love people you like. But to forgive and hold back people who have actually harmed us, it's not easy at all. And to see that I am the one consciousness here in all these beings, and then hold back, not react in irritation, in anger, and lash out at them. Lashing out, hurting verbally, even mentally, is just the opposite of Advaita. Swami Vivekananda says, the basis for ethics is this oneness of all existence. Why should I be good? Because, why should I not, he says, why should I not cut the throat of my neighbor if it serves my purpose? Because you and your neighbor are one reality. An enlightened way of being ethical is to see that the other person is none other than me. The way I seek my own good, in exactly the same way I should seek the good of the other person. There is one principle common to all religions, one principle found in all religions called the golden rule. It is to treat others as you would want them to treat you. There are different varieties of this. Immanuel Kant, the great German philosopher, what is the principle of ethics? He said that act in such a way that you would want it to be a universal rule. So even a thief values honesty. The thief is stealing, but he doesn't want others to steal from him. He doesn't want his own children to grow up as thieves. So he knows, I am doing wrong. In general, stealing is not a good, he does not want it to be a general rule in society, everybody should steal. No. He wants honesty to be the rule in society. So act as if your activities, be honest because you want honesty to be the universal rule in society. Behave with others as you would want them to behave towards you. In the United Nations headquarters in New York, the headquarters of the United Nations is there. You go to the third floor, there's a big, it's written in big letters. Behave with others as you would want them to behave with you. It says the golden rule in all religions of the world. And that is the basis of all ethics. Now, the question is why? Why? In Buddhism, there's a very beautiful text, Mahayana Buddhist text, Bodhicharya Avatara, Shantidevas. There he says, suffering, Shantideva writes, suffering should be removed because it is suffering. I remove my suffering because it's suffering. The suffering of the others also I recognize it's suffering. So I should try to remove the sufferings of others. But there also the question remains why? One can object. My suffering I am feeling, therefore I remove it. That fellow's suffering I don't feel. I may remove, may not remove, who cares? Why? The why is answered by Advaita Vedanta. That underlying all of it, it is you, one and the same. And the more we understand this, what one consciousness is, we'll begin to see more and more we are the same in all bodies and minds. Or you take it devotionally. Suppose you can't go all that, I don't want to go in this philosophical direction. My beloved Lord, Krishna himself has said, I am there as the Kshetragya in all beings. Then if I'm going to be violent, revengeful, to whom am I going to be violent? To my beloved Krishna. I can't do that. No matter if Krishna in that body and mind has harmed me in this body and mind, it's still Krishna. I can't do it. So, Shanti, a deliberate attempt to forbear, fortitude, put up with the suffering imposed upon you by others, by their words, by their behavior. If we make a little effort, amazingly, the results suddenly turn out to be good. Sometimes, very, very soon, you get good results. If you put up with a little bit, be a little forgiving, you begin to see things turn. Arjavam, straightforwardness. Straightforwardness. Straightforwardness, why? Because Brahman is Arjavam. One sadhu put it this way: consciousness itself is very straight. It's the moment it comes into the mind, then it flickers, many vrittis come, and consciousness flickers as a reflected consciousness in many vrittis. It becomes broken up into pieces, as it were. Then it flows through the 5 senses. Then it becomes as if further broken up into 5 different channels of conscious experience: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting. Arjavam, straight, one consciousness. That's a very deep philosophical way of looking at it. At our practical level, at our life's level, what do? Straightforwardness. Children are straightforward, often to the embarrassment of their parents. And sadhus are straightforward. I remember back in college, we had this training, one course called assertiveness training. So assertiveness training, they called it AT. And what do they teach you? So they say that one kind of behavior is aggression. I want something, so I am aggressive, I bully, I push, I shout, yell at people, browbeat them, and try to get my way. That is one way. Not an effective way of functioning in organizations, creates dysfunction. Or in families also, creates dysfunction. Another way is a manipulative way, other end of the spectrum. So I play office politics or whatever it is and try to get my way in a sort of backdoor way. That's also very dysfunctional. That harms an organization, office, or a family also. So in between is assertiveness, straightforwardness. So they used to teach us things like, you have the right to say no. Whatever anybody asks of you, you have the right to say no. You don't have to say yes to other people. Even if you don't want to say yes, say no. You have the right to ask. Many people are very soft and they feel, I can't ask. You got whatever you want to ask for, you have the right to ask, knowing that other person also has the right to say no. So all these things they would teach us. We used to joke. It is, what is this? What are they teaching you? They're teaching you how to be rude. Assertiveness is being rude to others. But Arjavam, straightforwardness. Sri Ramakrishna said, one becomes Sharal, simple, straightforward in his last life. The word Saral also means straight actually. In Hindi it says Saral Rekha, straight line. Arjavam and Saral are the same thing, simplicity. Sri Ramakrishna goes so far as to say, one becomes simple in one's last life. Simple is not foolish. Simple is not foolish. Often it is a person who is intelligent, understands everything, and after that is simple. Foolishness and simplicity. This is a difference between childishness and childlike. Childish is not good. Childish for a child may be acceptable or tolerable. Even for a child is not good. For a grown-up, absolutely not. Childishness is not good. But childlike is very good. Swami Vivekananda said, how should we be? What should be our life, our personality be like? How beautifully he puts it. He says, combine utmost seriousness with childlike simplicity. So in life, combine utmost seriousness with childlike simplicity. Our problem is we do the reverse. We combine a lot of superficiality with complexity. He says utmost seriousness, instead of being serious about life, we are superficial. We are busy with all sorts of superficial things. And he says, childlike simplicity, inside we have this utter complexity. We become very complex people inside. Reverse. Combine utmost seriousness with childlike simplicity. So, Arjavam, simplicity, straightforwardness. This very beautiful story I want to tell you about Saint Thomas Aquinas, who's a great Christian theologian. in the medieval, about 800 years ago. So he was one of the greatest scholars. But when he was a student, he had just joined the Christian monastery to be, so they were being trained. The story goes like this. He was very big and slow. So all his friends, others, young monks, they made fun of him. They used to call him he's like an ox, like slow. So they would tease him. One day in the class, they ran to the window of that monastery, and the other students on purpose were saying, look, the cows are flying. And then this Thomas Aquinas, he ran to the window to see. And everyone else burst out laughing. What a stupid fellow you are. You don't know cows can't fly? You believed it, cows can't fly? He turned around and he said, I know that cows can't fly, but I can't believe that monks can lie. So, see, this utter simplicity. He shamed the whole class of the other students. Simplicity. So, Sri Ramakrishna tells somebody that go and see Niranjan, why go and see that particular young boy who's a devotee. What will you see? See how simple he is. See how simple he is. If I'm simple, people will take advantage of me. That is the usual. No, they won't. There is a saying, nothing confounds the clever so much as simplicity. Acharya upasanam shaucham stairyam atma vinigraha. Acharya upasanam means respect, devotional, respectful service to the teacher. That's the usual way we understand it. Acharya is the guru or the teacher who transmits the spiritual knowledge to us. But there is a deeper meaning to it. When Krishna is saying this, there is a meaning connected to the Advaitic teaching. What is Acharya upasanam? It's a very powerful practice. What is the practice? It is upasana. The word upasana means worship. But if you see literally what does it mean? Asana means to sit. Upa means near. Upasana means sitting near. So when I do worship of a deity, Krishna upasana, that means sitting near Krishna, worshipping Krishna basically. Acharya upasana means sitting near the Acharya, which sitting near means sitting near the realization of the Acharya. The teacher, the enlightened one. What is the realization of that enlightened one? Let me download that into my life. Today we were discussing, at one time it was very popular, neuro-linguistic programming. People used to talk about that. How do you learn something? So there's an expert, and we try to imitate him and try to download the way that expert thinks, works, whatever the field is. The whole idea of mentorship and apprenticeship is that there are things which can be taught in a classroom through PowerPoint, through textbooks and case studies. That's good. But if you want real skill, at sophisticated, at a higher level, then you see in all these professions, there is apprenticeship. What is internship in a hospital? It's apprenticeship. In a law firm, the top levels of companies, you're supposed to shadow the CEO or the head. What is that? Why can't you just give a manual? No, you must stay with the expert and you begin to understand. And it's something like downloading. There are a lot of non-verbal learning that takes place. So Acharya Upasana means staying with the teacher, close to the teacher, so that the wisdom, the knowledge that I have, that the teacher has, I am Kshetragya, I am pure consciousness. The serenity in the mind of the Acharya, the actions of this spiritual teacher, these things are downloaded. It's not so easy to do it from books. So you stay with a person who is enlightened, or we don't know who is enlightened, or at least spiritually advanced. And you download this from that person. I remember this Zen story, very nice. Two students went to a Zen master to learn Zen Buddhism. The master did not teach them anything, just gave them some work in the monastery. And one student began to get irritated as the weeks passed. Morning to evening we're cooking, cleaning and all of this. When is he going to start teaching us the classes? I'm dissatisfied. I'm going away. How about you? And the other student said, no, I'm okay. You're okay. He's not teaching us Zen. What are you learning here? What did you come here for? And the other student said, I came here to see how he ties his shoelaces. This is the downloading. Shoelace is secondary. The whole, it's a very beautiful word in Sanskrit, bhava. The whole attitude is downloaded sort of from the teacher. Why I'm saying it's a powerful spiritual practice in every situation in life. Whether you are sitting in meditation, I am not sitting in meditation. How would Vivekananda meditate? How would my Guru meditate? Suppose I am not here. My Guru is sitting in meditation. Vivekananda is sitting in meditation. How would that meditation be? It has a very powerful effect on the mind. See, don't tell your mind, try to meditate like Vivekananda, try to meditate like Krishna. The mind will tell you, you are a useless fellow, you can't meditate like Vivekananda, so no chance. But if you tell your mind, I am not Sarva Priyananda, I am Vivekananda, sit. Vivekananda is sitting here. This is Vivekananda's body. This is Vivekananda's prana, Vivekananda's mind, Vivekananda's intellect. Now in deep meditation, you will see. Immediately, the quality of a meditation will be something else. Acharya Upasanam, the deep meaning of that is, in meditation, in study, in interaction with others, in facing physical illness, bad behavior from others, challenges in life, how would that enlightened person, Vivekananda, Ramana Maharshi, Ma Sharada, how would they face this? What would they do? What would they say? And what would they think? Your mind already has a pretty good idea. If you have read the lives of them, if you admire them, you already have some kind of an idea. Modern psychology is using these. At Columbia a few months ago, there was a seminar, and the professor made us go through an exercise. He says that, this lady, Lisa Miller, she said that when you have a serious problem, a crisis to face, then think of some ideal person in your life. It could be Socrates, it could be Vivekananda, it could be Krishna, it could be your Guru. Imagine you're sitting down with this person. Also imagine another person who is your well-wisher. May not be a highly enlightened person. Maybe your grandmother or your mother or father, whomever you're close to as a well-wisher. Sit down with that person. These two people who are sitting here, an enlightened being, and this very close, intimate well-wisher. Tell them your problem. What are they telling you? Tell me, what are they telling you? Now, what is the technique being used? It's your mind has an ideal. This person, Vivekananda, Ramana Maharshi, Krishna, these are enlightened beings. It is your mind's ideal. Now, you're tapping into that ideal. You're asking that ideal to speak to you. Your mind has a certain source of trustworthiness, comfort. Might be mother, grandmother, father, somebody. You're tapping into that source of comfort. Now you're getting advice from that. This is a modern psychology, positive psychology, they use these techniques, but the Acharya Upasana works in that way. Shaucham, cleanliness. We all know from childhood, first thing we learn, cleanliness is next to godliness. So purity, physical, mental, purity, external and internal purity. Stairyam, very important. Steadiness. In this day and age, very important. Always important in this day and age, important in the age of YouTube. Is everything. There is a spiritual supermarket. Everything is available to you. The Advaita Vedanta, the temple rituals are available to you. Vipassana meditation is available to you. Dzogchen, Tibetan Buddhism is available to us. All sorts of spiritual technologies, philosophies are continuously available to us, and many of them are genuine at a pretty high level also. Now what happens is, they are fine, we are not fine. We are restless. We have a tendency to jump from one thing to another. The best thing is to be steady in one thing. There is no harm. Vedanta is very wide and broad. Vedanta never tells you that stop exploring. You be steady in one thing, hold on to one. It could be bhakti, it could be the Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, Jnana Marga. Steady in that. Then take a look. And I'm partial towards Advaita Vedanta, the Jnana Marga. So I can say from Advaitic perspective, from this perspective, it's like sitting on top of the Mount Everest. Everything else will fall into place. You will be able to see the merits of every other position. What they can do and they cannot do. It's, you might say that you are bragging about your own philosophy. Well, I have to. I mean, I'm being honest. This is what I really think. It is so sublime and so high a position, extraordinary. From that perspective, every other teaching, you can see the point that they're trying to make and the utility of it. So, but anyway, stairyam, steadiness in one path. And be open to all paths. Enrich yourself. Atma vinigraha, a control over our senses. See, it always comes around to this. Even the first lecture, after the stages, in one's realization, I am one consciousness. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. That is, Krishna said to Arjuna, that I am this one consciousness. At the level of the mind, samatvam. Dukkheshu anudvignamana, sukheshu vigataspriya. Unshaken in sorrow, not hankering in times of pleasure and enjoyment. And in terms of action, asangatvam. This is detachment. You go through life, don't get hung up or stuck anywhere. All of this, the next step, Krishna says, yada sangharate chayam kurmangani eva bharata. Have the ability to control your senses. All this Vedanta is there. Somebody comes and gives a slap, immediately give another slap. What happened to your Vedanta? At that moment it did not work. Why it did not work? Because the senses have a certain autonomy. I haven't brought them under control. They react the way they are used to reacting. One sadhu in Gangotri, we used to study Ashtavakra from him. So, old Punjabi sadhu. We were sitting at his feet. One day, while teaching Ashtavakra, he put the book on his knee and he looked at us and he said, Haath, in Hindi, I will translate, Haath mein shastra hain, और दुश्मन से दो थप्पड़ खा के रोते रोते आ गए क्या मजा है महात्मा जी. You have weapons in your hand and the enemy comes and gives you a couple of slaps and you come back weeping. What's the fun in that? So the enemy is anger, greed, the desire to retaliate, lust. All of these are enemies and they provoke us and we fall for it. We react. And then we say our Vedanta did not work. You have, these are weapons. He says, what are weapons? These verses of the Ashtavakra he was saying. These are actual weapons they are practical. They are meant to be used in life right now, not after enlightenment. After enlightenment, problem is solved. Right now, you have to engage in this Kurukshetra, this battle. So, control of the senses, so that I can effectively manifest this knowledge in my day-to-day life. And the more I manifest it, as Albert Bandura would have it, the more spiritual self-efficacy I will have. The more I will be able to say, I can tackle this situation. Now, I will stop with a peace chant. So what about the rest, Swamiji? There are 20 practices. We have just done a few. All the others, homework. Now, the Shankaracharya's commentary on them is very instructive. Take a look, you will begin to understand. There's a direct meaning to it, you will see the translation, and think what it means from the non-dual perspective. Why Krishna is bringing it up, these moral practices, these ethical practices, in the context of Kshetra, Kshetrajna. There's a deep connection with Advaita philosophy of these things. I'll do the peace chant. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.